Blog Talk Radio.
I'm Ronald James. Welcome to Bigger Questions. For thousands of years, humans have looked up at the cosmos and wondered, why are we here? Now, the trend is to look in the other direction, but there's nothing new about that. We indeed live in interesting times. Here we sit, taking another look at some of the oldest teachings about our existence. We're living in a matrix, an illusion? Yeah, they've been saying that for a long time. Long enough for more brilliant minds to dismiss the entire concept. But now, we're starting to prove it scientifically. How cool is that? What is the true nature of reality? And what is the connection between consciousness and spirit? What kind of a world will we live in when there is a total fusion of science and religion? The Bigger Questions series addresses these most fundamental of questions with the help and guidance of some of the scientific community's most brilliant thinkers. From the realms of quantum physics, parapsychology, psychology, mathematics, astronomy, and spiritual studies, we're asking bigger questions.
They're beautiful like diamonds in the sky. Eye to eye, beautiful life. They're beautiful like diamonds in the sky. Shine bright like a diamond. Shine bright like a diamond. Shine bright like a diamond. Beautiful like diamonds in the sky. Shine bright like a diamond. 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 Remix. But that diamond is here we go. Fire like the beautiful sea. I just see the apple. You and I. We're like diamonds in the sky. Give a shooting star, I see. Vision of ecstasy. And you're home there, I'm alive. We're like diamonds in the sky. I see you, baby. Come one drop away. All right away, yeah. I feel side out. Yeah, up the way. I saw the light inside your eyes. You shine bright tonight. We're beautiful like diamonds in the sky.
Hello, everyone. You are in the upgrade of Diamonds Forever 31 Roar, the Lion Taking Dominion, and 13 Christ Consciousness, your supernatural natural self. The diamonds you are. We have a roaring supernatural natural show for you today. This is Elizabeth Diamond greeting you with blessings of love, peace, joy, turning to bliss. Welcome, all you diamonds. Are you shining brighter today? Keep working on it. These diamonds here today will shard you and add to your shine. Welcome. On a special January 10th, 2015, a co-creation edition of Diamonds Forever 31 show. Both I and Andrew Fisher, who hosts Nature of Reality Radio, Blog Talk Radio, and was one of my previous show guests on Diamonds Forever 31 show, and I, a guest on Nature of Reality Radio, will moderate a roundtable, Diamonds in the Rough, exposing the nature of reality. Welcome, Andrew. How are you, my brother?
Oh, I'm doing great, and I see there is an area code 202 in the queue. I do hope that is Steve. Well, let's just hope so. I'm doing great. I just finished sun gazing, was out in nature early this morning, and actually I had my window open right next to me, and the sun is shining in there, so I guess I'll be able to sun gaze during the course of the show, let the sun and its energies guide me. So I'm feeling refreshed and rejuvenated and looking forward to I just see a note from Steve in the queue, on Skype saying that he's in the queue. So great.
Okay,
everybody is here. So would you like me to get started?
Do you want to give out your Blog Talk call-in number in case the people on the Diamonds line or anybody else can't get on? They can call in to your Blog Talk radio number. Would you like to give that?
Yes, my number is 646-478-4747. That's 646-478-4747. Well, Liz, for all practical purposes, this is your show because this is your idea. I'm just second rate, so I'll let you decide when you want to take callers. If you do want to take any callers, if we have time and everything, because this will be about 2.5 hours. So is there anything else you would like to say, or can we just get started with the questioning?
Okay, I wanted to say Andrew was gracious. He put all the links of the guests today at the bottom of his Blog Talk Radio link, and my links and his links, and they're at the bottom. And is there a chat room up today, Andrew? Do you have your chat room up?
For me. There's only one guest in the queue at the moment.
Well, that's okay. Just let them know how to get to the chat room if they like to go.
Well, there's a chat room. Just go to the official page on Blog Talk for this specific show, and you should see the chat room down at the bottom. I'd like to give Michelle Wallen credit for putting an event on Facebook for this page, but she kind of put it up at the last minute, so a lot of people may not know about this show, but that's okay. I'll make sure I upload this to YouTube after the show is over, so all this information gets out to the public. And if you want, Liz, you can upload this to your YouTube channel as well. We'll kill two birds with one stone that way. So,
I sure will. We're going to love two birds with one stone that way. Love them to the glory, kind of glory, get them drunk in the love of God, and that's what heals everybody and makes the diamonds that y'all are shine. So just want to let you know you can call in on the Diamonds call. We have a call every Saturday, 2 p.m. Eastern, 209-255-1000, and the PIN number 883267#. The recorded link will be available right after this call, and that is on the recorded line 209-255-1099, PIN 883267#, and then they'll ask for a reference number, and today's reference number is 198#. Okay, so let me just do this little introductory, and we'll bring our guests in, and I'll kind of give the play time of the roundtable, what we're going to do today. This will be a discussion to bring to light the ET, UFO, starseeds, contactees, hybrids, abductees, dimensional star people, both present on this earth and other dimensions. In this show, we will paint how most world governments are involved with that presence, including the USA, and how society, every single one of you diamonds, can go about bringing disclosure to the public to bring to light the fact that the extraterrestrial presence is real and will soon become so tangible there will be no denying it, even for those who want to plug their ears and turn their backs. Countless whistleblowers, conspiracy theorists, and investigative journalists, science and quantum physics have already shown the evidence that there is definitely an encompassed extraterrestrial presence both on Earth and other dimensions and time spaces. But since the governments and mainstream media won't touch the subject, although some are persevering and will open a space for this in mainstream. And since many people in the general public find the idea of UFOs and aliens, quote unquote, little green men with antennas on Earth to be too crazy to believe, then consequently it becomes hard for disclosure to become truly official. We hope to change that. Diamonds Forever 31 show and Nature of Reality Radio presents your ticket to the reality world galactic-wise that we live in, even at this present moment now. Now, round panelists include Paradigm Research Group President Stephen Bassett, philanthropist Tom Clearwater, who funded the citizen hearing on ET disclosure, and Peter Maxwell Slattery, who, by the way, is calling in at 6 a.m. in the morning. Thank you, Peter, my brother. Peter Maxwell Slattery, who has had many spiritual experiences, an experiencer involving ET contact and a starseed himself. Below are all the links presented in the show, and they're on the Diamonds blog too. Diamonds with an S, forever, 31.blogspot.com. Okay, so now let me just give you for our brothers there, our three brothers, Peter, Steve, and Tom. I'll give you the playtime rules of the round table. Okay, so we're going to go for an hour and a half. We're going to ask each of you, me and Andrew, are going to each ask you one main question for each of our brothers. We will start with Steve Bassett, approximately 5 or 7 minute answer, Steve, followed by a follow-up question from me or Andrew. With that follow-up question, make it like 3 to 4 minutes or so. You know, it doesn't have to be stiff time. Answer, and then we will take that question that's answered in the follow-up question, and we'll expand it around the room with our other two brothers. We'll bring in Tom and we'll bring in Peter. Then the next main question will go to Tom or Peter, and we'll ask that question, take 5 to 7 minutes, and then either me or Andrew will ask a follow-up question, take 2 to 3 minutes on that, and then we'll expand it across the room to the other two. So we're going to do that for an hour and a half. Then we're going to take a small music break, 3 minutes or so, and come back for a galactic party round table where all our brothers will open up. That's Steve, Tom, and Peter will open you up, and I would love for you three to engage and expand even more of what we've already talked about and share from the depths of your hearts with each other to shard us all diamonds engaging in listening. So before you leave here, you diamonds, you will be shining brighter than ever. Andrew, and let's bring Steve in and say hi to him. Let him just say hi and, let him introduce himself a little, a minute or so, and then you could go into your question for him, Andrew. Take it away.
Okay, we'll do that. I believe this is Steve here. I do have 2 area code 202s in the queue, but the one that was in longer is probably Steve. So, area code 202, start talking, please. Let me make sure this is Steve Bassett. How you doing?
Yeah, this is Steve.
How you doing? Glad to have you on. Was worried for a moment you weren't going to be here, but it's glad to see that you're here now. And I would like to start off with a bang by asking the skeptics question, the question that all the skeptics would be asking, and that is, don't you feel that you're wasting your time with this whole disclosure thing? I mean, if you think about it, lots of people out there have said there's no sense in trying to make the government disclose stuff because even if you force them and hassle them like crazy to make them expose stuff on UFOs and ETs, they're not going to do it because, well, society would flat out crumble. I mean, good example, Orson Welles' War of the Worlds radio broadcast, where he said that the Martians are coming. There was chaos in the streets because over 1 million people believed what they heard, and many people say that religions would crumble and the way we look at science would crumble and everything. So the government will not disclose no matter how much effort you put into it. So what do you have to say to all the skeptics who make that assertion that you're wasting your time because the government and the mainstream media, for that matter, will not disclose this information?
I would say they're wrong on every count.
So why do you say that?
The Orson Welles broadcast, which was...
Okay, Steve, you sound a little muffled. I'm sorry. Nice to meet you, Steve.
Let's see, I've got a microphone about 2 inches from my face.
Yeah, we had the same problem when you were on my show. There was that wind sound in the background. I can hear it yet again. See if you can try to clear that out.
There's no noise in this room at all. So there shouldn't
That's
be
our
any
galactic brothers
background.
and sisters.
How is that? Is that any better?
Yeah, better.
Just slightly, but we can hear you better now. So you might as well just keep going.
Okay. The skeptics in this that are asserting those ideas are wrong. They're just not true. The Orson Welles broadcast of some 70 years ago is irrelevant. It was a show that about an invasion from Mars that had disclaimers on it, but the disclaimers were not heard by many people who had jumped over to the show from another show they were watching, their popular comedy show. So they thought it was real. It wasn't real, so since it was a phony broadcast, and they got upset. The broadcast was designed to be aesthetic because it was entertainment. That is virtually not relevant to what is going on now, the entire process of engaging the government and the public on this issue and bringing the public awareness up to what is now almost 100%. So that point's been valid. Secondly, the idea that religion and economics would collapse is based upon virtually no solid understanding or assessment of the nature of this phenomena. And this is mostly kind of a fear-mongering approach that is driven by government propaganda. The government has certainly encouraged this kind of thinking because it discourages people from engaging the issue. So if all I can say is that those that are concerned about the religions of the world collapsing or the economy collapsing or what have you, because we learned the simple truth that we're not alone in the universe, which shouldn't. I don't think there's too many people in the world who are going to be that surprised by that. It's not going to happen. It will be interesting. It will be provocative. It will be challenging. But like everything else the human race has learned over its 300,000-year history, we will adapt, and we will incorporate it in our worldview and move on. It's just that simple. This kind of thinking is not turning up anywhere in my engagement of the government, my engagement of the media by and large. It's just not an issue.
Okay, even though you didn't go 5 minutes, I suppose, Liz, you might as well.
Steve, can you add in there?
Well, there's 5 minutes to say about it. These are just bogus assertions by people that don't know much about the history of this issue, who are living under the truth embargo, meaning they haven't paid much attention, but they know the government doesn't believe this is true. And there's just no substance for this. The closest thing to any substance on the impact of disclosure that was put out by any government entity or any entity related to government was the Brookings Report of 1960, 50 years ago, commissioned by NASA, the U.S. Navy, to address it with a broad range of issues. And in this report, they made some statements that might be extremely disruptive, based largely upon some thinking from the anthropologist Margaret Mead and her work in the South Pacific with cargo cults. I mean, that's it. And that's pretty much the sum total of the government's substantive statements or addressing that idea in the last 60 years. So again, there's just nothing much to it. There is an overwhelming amount of evidence that the human race has learned a great deal about this issue and this phenomena, is engaging this phenomena and handling it quite well. So again, I'm just not concerned at all about the disruptive impacts along those lines of the disclosure event by the heads of states or by the nations, acknowledging the simple truth that we're not the only sentient species in the galaxy, which I just don't think is shocking anymore, or even remotely shocking anymore.
Right. Steve, welcome. Can you hear me?
Yes, I can.
Yes, thank you for all that. And I guess my follow-up question would be, within the question, if you could update us where you are. I know you're activist in Washington, D.C., and all around the world. Within the government, your boots on the ground within the government, in the system, busting it up, letting it crumble in a love way. But if you could follow us up where you're at with the citizens' hearing, and by the way, getting it live into Congress and Senate where the whole world will see the discussion regarding ETs and extraterrestrial presence. And be sure to go to the Diamonds blog or Steve's Facebook, and it's all out there. Sign the petition to go on the Washington, D.C. Line and say that we want this now. So if you could give an update on that. And, you know, I know governments like India has been exposing extraterrestrial stuff and putting even articles straight up on their mainstream, government site. So go ahead, Steve.
Okay, let me see if I can focus this. Currently, we're in a fairly comprehensive effort to secure congressional hearings on the extraterrestrial issue. There haven't been hearings addressing the actual phenomena since 1968. There were 2 brief hearings that were held, one in the House Armed Services Committee and one in the Committee on Science and Technology. The reason there haven't been any hearings since then is that those inside government that are managing this issue know full well that if substantial hearings were held, the truth embargo, which has been a government policy since about 1950, would end. And they're not prepared to have the truth embargo end, just like they weren't prepared to have the Cuba embargo end until apparently a month ago. Governments do what they do. So hearings would be probably the ballgame in terms of the truth embargo. So while there have been many attempts to give hearings of various types, both from the inside and the outside of the U.S. Congress, they've all been blocked and not succeeded. This has a chance to succeed because of its size and scope of it. And it is the principal project now of Paradigm Research Group, which has been pursuing the political resolution of the extraterrestrial issue since 1996. What is happening is somewhat complex, but PRG was able to hold a mock congressional hearing in 2013. It was a fairly extensive event where we had 42 witnesses from 10 countries, 17 of the leading researchers plus 25 military agency political witnesses, testified before 6 former members of Congress in a mock hearing at the National Press Club. Over 30 hours, just 20 sessions. It was the most probably concentrated evidence and witnesses ever put together in a single place at one time. And we filmed it all 30 hours professionally. We also webcasted it on live, so many people saw it live. And that was fine and good, and we got a decent amount of coverage, 100 or so articles in various publications, including the New York Times and so forth. But the ultimate purpose of that hearing, citizen hearing, was to launch the Congressional Hearing Initiative. Now, it took 16 months to do that. I had hoped to launch it much sooner, but there were problems that developed after the citizen hearing was completed in May of 2013. So on November the 5th, we launched the Congressional Hearing Initiative. And that is, and I'll describe that so that your listeners can get a sense of how comprehensive it is. First and foremost, we shipped the video record of the citizen hearing on disclosure, all 30 hours of testimony, to every House and Senate member. That was at the time 538 DVD sets, 10 discs per set, so that's 380 DVDs. Each set was accompanied by a letter signed by all of the witnesses that testified at the citizen hearing under a citizen oath to the 6 former members of Congress. At the same time, we launched a social media campaign, which was designed to do one thing: make sure that the 20,000 or so staffers on the Hill knew that these DVD sets were on their way, and that they needed to look at them, and they needed to talk with me at some point about holding hearings. And the hearings are desired. We want hearings on this issue. We have the witnesses to testify on the Hill under oath right now that would essentially end the controversy once and for all. So that social media campaign was launched simultaneous with the shipping of the DVDs, and it's been successful. We are probably somewhere around 1 million messages have been generated via Twitter with hashtag disclosure, via Facebook postings, hashtag disclosure, all directed at members of the Congress. Also, an X number of Twitter and Facebook messages that did not have a hashtag attached to them, as well as X number of emails to the House and Senate. I think we're easily around 1 million. Now, we anticipate they're going to generate hundreds of thousands more over the next, throughout the rest of January. Furthermore, we did get an article in the Washington Times describing all of this. It was in the political section of the Times, so a substantial number of people on the Hill, Capitol Hill, would have seen that. So they know what's in. They know what's going on. I don't think there's a lot of surprises there. So that has gone well. As of January the 7th, another component of this congressional hearing initiative is the 7th disclosure petition was submitted by PRT to the White House. That petition is simple. It calls for the President to support convening these congressional hearings as soon as possible. It's called Disclosure Petition 7 Congressional Hearing. It was posted on in the early morning of January 7, and is generated now about 5,600 signatures, which is fine. And press releases, international press releases, have been sent out on that. More are being sent out. And the social media campaign is shifting part of its resources to alerting people to this petition. Now, the petition is important because, one, it's a hook to drive mainstream media on the issue because it resides on the White House website itself and will until February 6th. Secondly, if we should succeed in achieving the rather formidable challenge of gaining 100,000 signatures for this petition, then it will require a White House response from the President regarding this congressional hearing initiative. And furthermore, the petition will remain on the White House website throughout the remainder of the President's term in office. That will be through January of 2017. And so that is underway and doing fairly nicely. The mainstream media campaign, in which we are going to try to bring this issue onto the major talk shows, on cable and network news, as well as articles in major papers, is now getting underway. And we shall see that develop throughout the remainder of January. At some point in late January or early February, a letter is going to be sent to the 7 committee chairs, the chairpersons of the 7 committees we are formally targeting, signed by a number of political figures, people in politics, requesting that that committee chair convene those hearings as soon as possible. And so that will take place. This gives you a sense of the scope of this effort to finally get the hearings that should have been held years ago by the United States Congress on this matter. And I think we have a decent shot. A lot of it depends upon how many people are prepared to step up on this. there are millions of people worldwide who are fully aware and completely convinced that there is an extraterrestrial presence. The question is, how many of them are willing to actually do something?
Take the action, right?
Yeah, take action. And that has always been the question. It's a tough issue to get people to take action on. The action in this case requires them to sign a petition that would take about 2.5 minutes. That petition, by the way, is on the White House website now, and the link to it can be easily found at disclosurepetition.org, which is the home base for all of the disclosure petitions that have been sent in since September 22nd.
Thank you, Steve. Say that link again, please, where that we can find that.
Disclosurepetition.org. The social media campaign underway, which they can also participate in, which has now generated over 1 million both Twitter messages, 140 characters on it, and Facebook messages to the Twitter and Facebook, accounts of these members of Congress, is being operated from 3 locations: faxonwashington.org, that's F-A-X, faxonwashington.org, disclosure.media, and the Facebook page, the Disclosure Lobby. There you can learn how to find the links to easily obtain the Twitter handles and the Facebook accounts for most of the members of the House and Senate, as well as links to all of the email form pages that allow you to send emails on this matter. And the basic message is there for you to see in terms of what we want you to do. We want you to tell them that those DVD sets are in their office, look at them. They need to meet with the PRG's lobbyists, meet to talk about them. And we want hearings on these issues. So there is a simple way that people can participate. The rules are fairly simple. Anyone in the world can send a Twitter or a Facebook message to as many members of Congress they want, as often as they want. You do not have to be a U.S. citizen. Furthermore, as far as the email messages, you can, an American citizen can email any member of the Senate using the form pages. You're limited to your own representative in Congress, the House of Representatives, because you have to supply an address and a zip code. So the emails are limited to U.S. citizens who have U.S. addresses. But the Twitter and Facebook is not limited, and we have a substantial amount of international participation in terms of sending these messages in. So there is no office on Capitol Hill that is not aware that the Citizen Hearing on Disclosure DVD record is sitting in their offices right now and needs to be looked at. If they look at what they will see is the kinds of witnesses, the kinds of testimony, and they will see 6 former members of the Congress with 80 years of tenure virtually transformed from being appropriately skeptical on this issue to profoundly convinced this is real and that hearings need to be held as soon as possible. This is the first time Congress has had that kind of tool to assess whether they wish to take the political risk of acting on a matter. In this case, it's holding hearings, which is a very easy thing to do. It's not like passing a bill in the House in the Senate, which could take a very long time. The hearings can be called in days. They require only the commitment of a chairperson of a committee to do so. It is very easy, and they're not called on to pass a vote. All they're asked to do is sit in a chair and listen to experts and witnesses, give them information under penalty of federal perjury charges, so they can make an assessment of what is important and what to do about it.
Steve, sorry to interrupt you, but I'm going to have to ask you to wrap it up soon because you're taking way too much time, and we want to try to limit it to 5 minutes.
Consider it wrapped.
Yeah, Steve, I just want to thank you for sharing that. We needed to hear that, And just a few points, and then we're going to get to Tom and Peter, and we're going to keep going on this party roundtable of the Diamonds. I want to thank you, Steve, from the bottom of my heart, and from all of us Diamonds. I want to thank you for your extraordinary service within the system, boots on the ground, in this extraordinary venture, one of the most important ventures in opening up this new creation that we're co-creating. So thank you for being the forerunner of that. Thank you so much. And as you were talking, I knew this show would be like a springboard into all what you're talking about and your heart so desired to accomplish in all of these years that you've been working so hard and effortlessly persevering in. What's happening now is, right now, we're merging with the boots on the ground, the inside, just for the ET thing, and merging with the truthers and the internet and the blogs and the Facebook and TSU and all the alternative media. So right now on this subject, we're merging together, we're grouping together, we're going to take the action. I just really encourage everybody to find that Twitter, find all those links, find the petition. Take an hour of your time and make it go viral to all your friends and any creative. We're creators, you guys. Think of creative ideas to make this go virally, all of those points that Steve said. And also the mock, I don't want to call mock, Citizens Hearing, it's on YouTube, and you can find that. That was extraordinary. The Diamonds crew had a part of that. We were listening. And, Steve, you said we're trying to get this to mainstream media. Well, I declare to you, Steve, taking dominion, you will get this to mainstream media. So,
well, we have. I mean, there's been coverage of PRG's work all over the world for 18 years. There's been mainstream media coverage, but it hasn't gone to the level necessary. We need to trigger the mainstream media to start investigating the background issues and start asking questions of various government officials.
And that's what's happening now. We're merging this together today. These two timelines, we'll just say, are merging together, and you're just going to be surprised. You're going to be blown out of your socks, Steve. And I just want to add one more thing, and then let's bring Peter on next too. Bring his view in. But there's a gal named Sam Muggsy out there. She does a radio show, Sam Muggsy, and she's working with Ray Kozlovsky. I'm sorry, Ray. I call him Ray. And by the way, Peter, a shout out from Ray. He says hi. Ray has met 32 ETs, different 32 ET contacts or ETs on the ground, face to face. Not only him, but his father. Not only him, but his grandpa. So he's built relationship with extraterrestrials over 50 years, you guys. Face-to-face contact on ships here down on Earth. He has a visit from his Fab Four every couple months, which we do updates on his visits on the Diamond Show. But him and Sam's already developed a website, and it's called EBH. E is an elephant, B is in boy, H is in happy.club, CLUB. And that's a website, a safe website, a private website I just want to do a shout out to all the starseeds, all the contactees, all the abductees, and all that have been visited. It's time to come out of the rough, the diamonds in the rough. You don't have to hide. Don't be afraid. Come on out. Go to that website. Your contact would be Ray, because Ray's had all that experience, so he can help you through it. And get into that social network and come on the truther media, if you will. And let's just get this ball a-rolling. And you heard Steve, this can be done in days, exposure, Senate, and Congress. So I just wanted to bring that out. And you can Facebook Sam Muggsy and Ray, KOSULANDICH on Facebook. And we have a YouTube on Diamonds. His 32 ET pictures that he's met of all these beings are on the Elizabeth Diamond YouTube channel, Ray Kozlovsky. Radiant Ray. So thank you so much, Steve. Hold on, and we're going to bring you right back. Let's bring in Peter, Andrew.
Yeah, hang on. There's two people with the same area code here. I'm going to have to figure out which is our one. First of all, Steve, I'm muting you right now. But let me make sure I got the right person here. So I'm bidding on Peter, you say? Hang on a minute. Elizabeth, are you there?
I'm here.
Okay, so you said Peter, right?
Yeah.
All right, let me make sure I got the right guy. Peter, if you're on the air, start talking. Make sure that this is you.
Hello, can you hear me?
Yes.
There you are.
Yes. Yeah, that is.
Okay, Peter, I just want you to comment on all what we've talked about a little bit, 2 or 3 minutes. Bring in your thoughts of your heart, because we got a main question for you, too. But we're going to bring Tom on, and he's going to bring his thoughts in of this discussion so far. So go for it, my brother.
First of all, I just want to say good day to everyone. To Steve and Tom, great work with what you guys have been doing. I'm a young fella, 31. I've just turned here in Australia, but many people, including the young'uns here in Australia, are following what's going on in the States, because basically everything that you guys do, we follow with being Australians and allies. With the terms of disclosure, things will play out, and I think it will be a lot different from what most think. What Steve's doing is a forefront in terms of getting the publicity done, putting it on, and having a mandate on the table rather than nothing being done at all, which has been a big problem for many years. That we've had things happen like Grudge, Sign, Blue Book, the Cometa report with the French as well. Australia's got its own documents that are being disclosed, same with the UK. It's happening worldwide, but nothing's really being done, and people like Steve is putting it back on the table, and with publicity, is helping make public awareness. And I think what's going to happen, in a sense, is it's going to be too much undeniable soon. Personally, I've got over 1,000 bits of video. A lot of it has been verified by experts of crafts that I've filmed here in Australia. Lots of people have actually witnessed and interacted with beings while in my presence. Today, over 100 witnesses. And I've been having experiences since I was young, so I can actually back up what's going on with myself with witness testimony. People that have been in the military, people that are pilots, lots of different background people can come to the play with my story. In saying that, I don't need the government to tell me that if I've got a bird on my front lawn. So this is at the moment, everyone is sort of waiting for the government to go, we need them to tell us that ET's real so they believe. I don't need to believe, I know. That's the difference. But for somebody that hasn't seen something, I can totally understand the aspect of they need some verification. I think people would be idiots to believe a word I've got to say without investigating my story, because they're just taking my word for it, which is the problem with society today. They just believe anything or what fits into their preconceived notions. So I think what Steve is doing, and Tom and others, I think is very valid. Is putting this in the public domain. And thumbs up to what they've done, and I appreciate all that they've done, because it helps people like us look not so nut, and it sort of wears people in for people when they talk to experiences like myself. So I could probably go on all day with this type of thing, but we'll take it to the next level wherever you guys want to go in this conversation.
Thank you, Peter. Thank you, Peter. Now, let's bring Tom in, and he can have his
Liz, don't I get my follow-up question?
No, we're on the first main question. We're going to go the round, and then we'll ask a main question to either Peter or Tom. And
all right,
everybody answers. So let's bring Tom in.
All right. Tom, you are on the air. How you doing?
Hi, Andrew. How are you doing?
Hi.
Doing great.
Hi, Tom.
Hi, Elizabeth. Nice to be on the show here with you. And Peter, thank you for those kind words. And
hey,
Stephen,
and Tom, maybe this sorry to interrupt. Maybe this would be a good time to interject how you got involved. I would like to hear your journey in a nutshell, from the beginning of how you decided to fund the mock citizens hearing and got involved with Stephen Bissett and what he's doing. And then I don't want to tell you what to do, but and then bring in your heart's sense of this conversation so far. And we got a main question for you too, Tom. Thanks.
Awesome. Well, my history with this issue is it goes back actually quite a ways in my life in how I was always aware that there was just something a little bit off or something missing about life on this planet and the way it was presented, et cetera. And so basically through many years of just plowing through the dissonance I felt inside in regards to that missing element, I popped out at some point and came to the understanding that, this is not just some small little, isolated play that we have here. We're sitting in a universe that is filled with life, and in fact, that life is here, and so that was a groundbreaking realization, of course, because it presents something of a binary shift in one's life, where suddenly the little closed inhabitation called life on Earth became a much larger deal and much more mysterious, in fact, of this life that it lived in the larger universe, which is filled with all sorts of life, all sorts of beings, all sorts of forms, etc. So that's my background with it. Just let me comment a moment about the question and Steve's answer, etc. Stephen has been on the front line doing this disclosure work, and I think we all owe him a huge debt of gratitude for what he has done to make this issue more front and center. My perspective on will disclosure happen? It's inevitable. It is, from my own experience, it is unnatural to exist thinking that we are, for all practical purposes, the only life available to us. That just doesn't fit with one's intuition, or at least mine, and did not fit with my feeling. And I believe it's a dissonant position for basically anybody else. Plus, we have this awesome thing called the internet now, which, if you consider the monumental changes to society that were wrought by the introduction of the printing press, back in 1600, thereabouts, the internet is magnitudes greater than that. And so I personally see that disclosure is inevitable, and that not only inevitable, it is also, in my opinion, coming to us, from the ground up, but also from the top down, I believe. My sense is that there is not just one monolithic group of people above us, who could be viewed as this negative faction that we have to fight, etc., as some sort of enemy. I believe that there is plus and minus basically everywhere in the universe. And when I look at what is happening in small measures, coming from what I assume is this upper realm of the power grid on this planet, I see a de facto slow motion discovery happening right now. So, for instance, we have movies like Interstellar, amongst many others. There's free energy news is appearing more regularly. NASA itself is talking about warp drives and microwave drives being something that I understand to some degree, and it's a valid technology, in my opinion. So if NASA's talking about it, that's a big step forward. Scientists and institutions are talking about the inevitability of life elsewhere as if, that is something that people should prepare for. And among other things, you have, let's say, the Pope talking about ETs. He, for his part, he says he would even baptize them. So I see two realities coming together. I see work from the ground led by people like Stephen Bassett and what he is doing. Plus, I see influences from the top, releasing threads of disclosure in a form and in a way that presumably they think will cause, let's say, the least amount of disruption because it is such a huge change. So that's my opinion on the issue. Yeah. Beautiful.
And just really quick, I'm just curious, how did you find Steve, and what made you decide to help fund the Citizens Hearing?
Right. Well, I looked at people who were involved in the disclosure movement, and there were two people fundamentally who I felt I could place my confidence in terms of what they were doing and values aligning with my values. One was, of course, Stephen Bassett. The other was Stephen Greer. But Stephen Bassett had a vision of bringing evidence in a way that could be publicized in a showcased manner to allow a greater credibility to devolve upon that information should people, be moved to investigate on their own terms. So I was always impressed with what Stephen was doing, and because of that, just decided that would be the main way forward in terms of changing this informational closed system that we're living in. Yeah.
Wow. So Tom, I want to just honor you you are instrumental in this too. I mean, Steve couldn't have done it without you. You gave your hard-earned energy, currency to him, and you trusted him to run with it. And boy, it's a rolling. Thank you so much. I honor you too. Thank you for your trust in people. Thank you.
Thank you, Elizabeth.
Okay, so Andrew, let's go to Peter. Peter, we're going to ask your main question, and then Steve, we'll go to Steve, to bring in the comments, and then we'll go back to Tom. But Andrew, are you there?
Yes, I am here.
Peter, do you want to ask Peter the main question, and I'll do the follow-up, or do you want to do the follow-up and I ask the question? It's up to you.
I guess I'll do the main question because I do have a question I want to ask. By the way, since Peter and Tom have the same number on my board here, let me, if I do accidentally mute the wrong person, let's just move along and not let that be an issue. But
Andrew, I just want to tell you, you're the question man. You come up with the best questions. That's really you do good. Okay, go ahead.
Okay, so Peter, as someone who's an ET contactee, a lot of people in the UFO and ET community would say it's not necessarily in our best interest to get information from people who say they're ET contacts, because first of all, even if they are saying what's really true to their heart, and I have no doubt that you are, there's a couple of issues. First of all, it is possible for the powers that be to put ET contactees under some sort of mind control to make them think that it's good ETs that are talking to them, but it's actually malevolent ETs masquerading as good ETs. So that's one issue. And second of all, like some ET contactees, like Sheldon Neidl, for example, I get weekly updates from him, and it seems like his weekly updates are always the same stuff. It appears like to some degree that the ETs have made it clear to him, we can't tell you any more than what we're going to tell you now, so you basically have no choice at this point but to release weekly updates that are very similar. So that's another issue that seems to arise with ET contactees. And the third issue is, one can make the argument people who believe ET contactees are just as bad as the sheeple because they will believe anything, and if they believe anything, then that would hurt the truth movement. And that's actually quoting someone who left a comment on my interview with John Lear when I said during that interview that I believe that it is in our best interest to get info from ET contactees, even if you can't accept it as truth, at least put it in the back of your mind as something, as like a safety net of sorts to stick to. And then if you get more down-to-earth confirming evidence that what the ET contactee says is true, then you can say, oh, well, the ET contactee was right all along. So just to simplify this, for all those people who are skeptical of getting information from ET contactees for the reasons I just went on, could you perhaps silence the skeptics on that issue?
I don't want to silence skeptics. I think having skepticism is what we actually need in today's society. I think the person that wrote into you saying the problem with today is everyone believing everything, I think that he's spot on. That is a friggin' problem, and I'll tell you why. It's why we're in the predicament we're in right now. We swear on a Bible, but yet a large majority of what's in that Bible cannot be confirmed. But yet we swear on it in court of law. You have it in your constitution, or what people swear on it at the with your congressman and everything like that. Or it's a Freemasons book. This is a problem. I think we need to look at things as skeptics. I think we need to look at for and against. Now, with my experiences, as I've said before, I don't believe anybody to believe a darn word I've said. What I want people to do is investigate, think. This is all that needs to be done. Now, I start one of my documentaries that today there are around 100 billion stars and 400 billion planets just in our Milky Way galaxy, and you can times that by 300 billion, and from the last count, it's actually more than that. So to think we're alone on a scientific level with Drake's equation, times it by whatever you want, just in the 3D, whatever you could say, this realm alone, there's definitely other things out there, and we're learning that now with microbacteria and things on other planets. We know that there's other stuff out there, whether it's intelligent the way we want it to be or not. We're looking at other things like string theory. We're looking at quantum mechanics. A lot of what I've seen is physical. Other things I've seen, it's not nuts and bolts, and that's a problem, and that's a problem for governments, which I think is part of the cover-up. If you can interact with something in this 3D realm, well, you can touch it, you can interact, whatever. But if you've got stuff that's popping in and out, which ghosts use the same mechanism as otherworldly beings, and even if they're in the 3D realm, they're still using interdimensional technology to pop in and pop out and go from one place to another. If you're not working with this properly and you don't fully understand this, and there are things higher on the chain, even though I believe Black Ops and governments have got some of this technology, it's still a bit far to go into, especially with the government really never saying that they don't believe UFOs exist. They believe they're not a threat, especially in Project Blue Book and Alan Hynek, they went into this. So this is where we can look at things on whatever level people want to, and people can go wherever they want. Now, with my experiences personally, what I can tell you is what I learn over time, because I've been skeptical about my experiences. A lot of it, I go, I don't know what the hell's going on unless other people witness it with me. I've seen crafts come out of trees and go into the ground with groups of people, and one of them was a scientist at the CSIRO who was in vaccinations and immunisation working on this, who is also an experiencer, and basically had to quit his day job because his whole paradigm was shifted. Now, this is where some of this, like he said, the problem for him was this isn't nuts and bolts. And that is a problem. It's not nuts and bolts like people think. Now, with disclosure, not only is there going to be a 3D conscious disclosure, there will also be disclosure where the veils will be lifted, and as a global civilization, we're not really going to have to be told on some level some of this stuff. It's going to be like a light switch is turned on, and it's going to be a higher level of consciousness, just like Albert Einstein said. You can't solve a problem with the same level of consciousness that created. Therefore, you need a higher level of consciousness, which is going on right now. You've got people like Stephen, Tom, and others who are using their consciousness and other ways to use the government's program to put this on the map, and that's what's going on now. But again, I have to go by the fruit from my experiences. Some of my experiences, they haven't been good, but usually they're linked back to government. And I know this because I've seen government people when this has happened. Other times, I've been on crafts that are completely transparent. The beings are light beings. They've projected sometimes themselves as humans. Now, people could say that's deceitful, but what I've learnt later is that's for my own body computer to be able to have a reference to interact with these beings until later on when it was completely showing me what they are for what they, showing me their real selves. But what I've had to do is go by the fruit from the experiences. So something's about positiveness, oneness, about the collective, about evolving, about growing, about learning. I see that as an experience that's positive. If it's not so much, I see it as negative, or really what I want to say is not positive or negative, but rather serving or self-serving, because I believe that we need both forces in this realm. So, to the questions, is there anything else you want to add? Because it's something that leads on. With questions, they can't always be just one answer, because everything is interconnected with what we're talking about. It's with disclosure what's going to happen. Not only is it going to bring up the questions of the government, it's going to bring up, well, what happens with all the old cases that are being brought up? What about the environment? What about oneness? What about war? Because it's going to show how small we really are in the entire universe, and that things aren't just going to change on we're not alone anymore. It's going to change on every single facet. So this is where this is multifaceted disclosure. It's not just an ET issue. It brings up many other things, including free energy. Awesome.
Thank you, Peter. Now I'll do a follow-up question. I just want to comment regarding let's squelch the skepticism and what you said, learning the knowledge and studying that, but also you can squelch the skepticism. As you learn the knowledge, you get desires in your heart, and when you have that desire to meet somebody or to learn, face to face with an ET or a star person, you get that desire. Start learning that realm within yourself. Call on them, learn how to call on them, talk to them in the air. Like, it looks kind of funny talking to them, but call them in and just talk to them like a little child. Go to that child in your heart, and you can squelch the skepticism in your own self, because with that experience, when you get to that, you will know that you know that you know, and then there's no stopping you. You will be a diamond there out in the world. Would you agree,
That's
Peter?
A very important point. It's a very important point. Those who don't know me, they can go to my website, petermaxwellslattery.com. I've got almost 6 books out. My 6th book's about to come out, 3 documentaries. I'm also about to be in a documentary with David Icke called Don't Mention the Reptilians. But what's there is I do guide sessions, and also I take people out to film crafts. Some people call it CE5, which Dr. Gree does. Other people have got other names for it. I've got witness testimony on that site, not just of the crafts, but people that have never seen anything, and they've come to these events, and they've seen beings, they've seen crafts. what I do for part of my work is I bring people's guides in. So this is where what you were just saying is what I do. It's intent. Now, if we can look at the universe as a frequency going throughout all, like the wireless internet, and our brain, our body computer, though we've got spirit connected, it's like a computer. We can tap in, you put out the thought, anything in line with that intent and that is open to it can come through. And I've proven this over and over and over and over. My father was a police officer for 38 years. He was skeptical until last year when they said the time is right, and I took him outside. And there was 4 crafts and he had no reference for what he's seen, just like many other people that have seen stuff with me. So, look, people, I believe every single person is an experiencer. On what level? Well, I don't think they're aware on the body-computer level. A lot of the times, how this works, just like government remote viewing, which I've also done, is the first thing that comes to mind is thoughts. And because a lot of people in the body-computer couldn't handle the real reality of what's going on, what a lot of these beings do is project thought into your mind, and you think it's your own thoughts. During 2011, where this started coming into play for me, was I kept on going outside and knew when there was a friggin' craft outside, and I'd film these things and take photos, and the same thing happens to today. I was wondering, why is it every time I go outside there's a craft there and I know it's there? Until after like 20 times, I realised it was them projecting the thought into my head to go outside and do so. Now, we've got mathematics and geometry and all that type of thing, which is like a universal language on a, I'll say, 3D level. But the real universal language is thought, what I call thought transfer.
Thought.
And this is how beings at all planes and dimensions communicate. So, this is where people like myself, a lot of people in the disclosure movement and that, I know they know what I'm saying is true, but a lot of the people in the public don't want to go there because it's too much for the average person in the public domain, which I totally understand. I could blow anybody's mind within 2 minutes, but this is where it leads to.
Yes. Thank you. That was beautiful. And we got like a half an hour, and we got to finish the round, and I don't want to hurry you. But by the way, Peter Maxwell Slattery and his honey will be on the Diamond Show coming up, so don't let me forget, Peter. And also next week on the Diamond Show, we're going to have another galactic show where we'll have Tolek from the Dromedan Council. He has a relationship with them. Ray Kozovoxlix, and relationship with 32 different ET species. And Sherry Wild, a contactee, and who's the other one? Julian Wells, a relationship with the Palladians. So I want to put that out. Don't miss that. So here's my follow-up question to you, Peter, and just in a sentence or two, dig deep into your heart, okay? And then we're going to ask we're going to bring on Tom or Steve, and then Tom to reply to all what you said. So my question is, being a starseed and an experiencer, I know and I've heard and I've learned as you go through that journey and you build a relationship with the star people, ETs, you just like in human life when you're building a relationship, you start becoming like them and they start becoming like you. You take on their essence and you start doing little omnises, little habits or saying their words or whatever. So I know you've meshed with that. So digging deep in your heart, what would you and your ET friends that you've meshed with like to say in a couple, 2 or 3 sentences?
I think it's just connect with the God within. It's as simple as that. Everyone's got their own answers, and if we just had more respect for ourselves than anyone else and saw God within others as well as ourselves, we wouldn't have a lot of the situations going on that we have. And at the end of the day, that's all that matters, is connecting with the God within, no matter if you call it universal consciousness, God, Allah, source, whatever you want to call it, this is the key to it. And people really need to start connecting within. And that's all I can really say, because from there, anything can be found out, anything you want to know, anything you want to experience. But one more thing is that it's not learning to have a relationship with these beings, is reconnecting. A lot of these beings, whether they're our guides or extraterrestrials or angels, whatever people want to call them, we've been these beings. We're actually living lives as these beings are interacting with them at the same time as right now. These beings are actually, some of them that we're interacting with are actually other facets of ourselves. This is where I love what's going on with myself, because every day And I don't know. I'll tell you right now, I wouldn't even know 0.00001%, trillion, billion times billion percent of what's going on. And that's why I love this, because I'm forever learning, and I don't claim to know what's going on. But I'll leave it there. But one thing I do want to say is I totally admire Steve and Tom for what they're doing. Steve, again, I've been following what you've been doing for years, mate, and we're all keeping our eyes on what's going on, and it's being noticed worldwide, mate.
Absolutely. And you three are going to be able to talk. You're going to have a half an hour to interact with each other. We're going to sit back and hear you guys just upgrade this even more. So thank you, Peter. And so now, Andrew, let's bring in Steve just to put in, a minute or two of what he's just heard from Peter. And then we'll go to Tom.
Okay, so you want Steve is on. Do you want me to ask him a question, or do you want him to say? No,
just bring Steve in. I want him to comment on all what...
All right, Steve, you're on the air. Comment.
Andrew gets right to it, doesn't he, Steve?
The role of contactees in this issue is highly complex. And I actually didn't address it very much until about 6 years ago, when I felt that I simply could not do the advocacy work and try to pretend that contactees didn't exist for expedient reasons. And more importantly, it was just not, I think, morally acceptable to continue down that road. So I've made it clear for a number of years that the engagement of humans by extraterrestrials in a covert fashion is now established fact, which it is. The number of contactees is a very important consideration. I will soon publish some information about that, which hopefully will be enlightening. But the number seems to be between 2 and 6%, and I choose to use the low number. I go with the lowest number that is turned up in the surveys that have been done, which is 2%. And by 2%, the implication is 2% of the world's population. That would be a fairly big number. It's approximately 35 million people, 6 million in the United States alone. So what does that mean? It means that we have 6 million people in the U.S. who are on the front line of the engagement between extraterrestrial civilizations and the human race. A significant portion of them still have block memories. A significant portion of them have recovered some memories, or have always had them, but are not going to step forward. They're not going to engage in any way because they are very comfortable in doing so, totally understandable. And a growing number of people are, in fact, stepping forward as contactees to engage the issue. This is an inevitable outcome, and with significant political implications. So, while I do not get into the vast aspects of contactee histories, there are so many types of contact. There are so many stories. What is important to the political process is simply that there's contact going on. That's what's important. How, why, when, what, that's less important right now for political purposes. So one, how many contactees who have a truly personal stake in this issue are prepared to get involved in the political processes? How many are willing to sign petitions? How many are willing to step forward and raise money because or provide funding, because some of these contactees, I assure you, are quite wealthy? How many contactees of rank and station that are known publicly are prepared to step forward and say, yeah, I'm Spartacus? There have been a few, mostly in the entertainment industry, but I assure you there are contactees in Congress, in the military, in the intelligence community, in Hollywood. How many are going to make that move? We don't know, but it's very significant. And so increasingly I expect contactees to play an ever-increasing role in the unfolding political resolution of this issue. But let me be clear. I don't ask for or expect any contactee to risk their job, their relationships with their coworkers or their families by just stepping out on this issue. We are going to get disclosure. It is inevitable, and it isn't essential that every contactee be involved. I think this is a decision that each one has to make, and I leave it at that. I certainly welcome those contactees that get involved directly. Let us be clear that most of everything we know about extraterrestrials, what they look like, the nature of their what their ships look like, both inside and outside, some of the aspects of their agenda, is from contactees, period. They are the number one source of this information on a collective basis. The account of any single contactee has a limited amount of value. The accounts of 500,000 contactees has an enormous amount of value because you can then assess that information and look for the core information that is consistent, the bell curve of consistent information, which is quite apparent when these contactee reports are visited. So let me be clear, contactees are going to play an ever-increasing role in the resolution of this issue, though their real role and their most important value will be in the post-disclosure world. And that will start very soon after disclosure takes place. And all contactees will have decisions to make then as to how much they want to contribute in the post-disclosure world. But I assure you, it will be great, and they will have an enormous amount of attention directed at them. I certainly hope that those people who are pretending to be contactees will step out of the picture just because it's morally appropriate to do so. So we have a limited amount of disinformation, and we have the strongest representation of the facts from contactees in the post-disclosure world, and I'm very looking forward to that day when it comes.
Yeah, I bet you are, Steve. Thank you so much for that awesome wisdom. Wow. Gems, diamonds of wisdom. Thank you so much. Okay, we got like 15, maybe 20 minutes at the most. I want Tom to come in and comment on starting from what Peter said and Steve said. And then, Tom, we have a question for you, and we'll go one more round. We'll take a 3-minute break, and then we're going to let you three engage and upgrade us more. Come on in, Tom.
Great. Am I on here now?
You're on. Go ahead and comment on Peter's stuff and Steve's that we just did this round. Go ahead.
Right. I wish to second what Stephen was saying there, that the simple fact of there being contact and it being a demonstrable reality seems to me to be the most important fact about contact itself. There are sources of information in this universe that go well beyond the bounds of what, people in this little kind of closed system mindset have been, told and have adopted. This notion that something needs to be provable in order for it to be admissible into knowledge or awareness is just simply false. For instance, if I were to ask, how do you prove the taste of an apple? The mind actually reels when it considers a question like that, because the qualitative aspect of life is not amenable to such things as proof. And for those who want let's say a scientific perspective on this, let's jump into quantum physics. Quantum physics says that all particle movement and happenings occurs as basically a calculation of the Schrödinger equation in what is called infinite Hilbert space. Now, you can't prove infinity. So right at the core of quantum physics, which is the most successful science that we have demonstrated on this planet, at least in the public sphere, and I just refer to it as a valid, science that has been accepted by consensus. in the core of quantum physics, you have this element called infinity, which is an unprovable counterfactual element. So people who wish to rely on skepticism, and skepticism is based on the notion that something can be doubted and disproven, etc., and that's the criteria for knowing. People who wish to place their faith in that, and it is faith, will, in my opinion, find themselves coming up short in terms of their ability to actually know in a way that this universe presents itself. And, quantum physics, for its part, cannibalized classical science, particularly Newtonian science, because of its introduction of this very fact of a counterfactual that is an unprovable element into its own scientific conceptuality.
Beautiful. Thank you, Tom, for that. Now here comes your question, Tom. You ready?
I'm ready.
Now, I know you've been studying this and thinking about it and analyzing it and researching it and getting it deep down in your heart. So you can say this in a nutshell, probably like, I don't know, 3, 4, 5. We'll give you whatever you have. Anyway, I know you on a show, you described that we are, each of us individually and together, a Tesla coil. And then the Tesla coil and the scalar wave together. So kind of paint that picture for all of us. And as he talks about each of us a Tesla coil, and together we're Tesla coils, and then we make a scalar wave. Well, we're scalar waving this galactic right into tangible, big-time stuff. Go ahead, Tom. And then,
awesome.
Andrew, then you ask a follow-up question. So take like 3-4 minutes, Tom, and then Andrew, a follow-up question, and then I want Steve to come in and comment, and Peter to come in and comment, and we're like running. And okay, go ahead.
Awesome. Well, I'll see what I can do in a few minutes. I have in my own life paid very careful attention to my own developmental progress, and particularly the mechanism, the mechanics, not a good word, but the actual sequencing of what has happened inside me. And when I came to study Tesla science, and I have a self-taught background in electronics because I have been interested in audio electronics all my life. I build my own amplifiers, whatever else. When I came to study Tesla electromagnetics, it occurred to me that there was almost a shockingly direct analogy between a Tesla coil and what I consider to be the human architecture as it is played out in the dominant features of the human being, including the brain, the gut, and the heart, primarily those three in interaction. To, let's say, speak generally about what that discovery implied and what it really means in terms of, let's say, our heading as a race into a future that will activate down those lines. As what I was saying in regards to quantum physics, that there is this other element of life which exists outside provability. And to refer again to quantum physics, there is a non-local connectedness within the entire universe, and it is accepted within quantum physics science that, for instance, when one electron moves in the universe, all move, and they all move simultaneously. So what we have is a completely connected, non-locally connected, absolutely synchronous universe where we have, yes, all of this local stuff that, we see, we interact with people locally, we talk and the sound waves go over to the other person. All that locality, it's all valid in the local realm. There is an entire side of life which is infinite, it's non-local. It is, in fact, the entire side which is open system, and therefore it is the side from which free energy will come in as true and real operating devices. That side has its own senses even. For instance, the third eye is actually, the pineal gland is actually an inward-facing retinal structure. Rather than being outward facing and rather than being dual in the sense that there being two eyes outwardly facing, the pineal gland is a single eye facing inward. And my opinion of what that implies is that there are inner senses that parallel in the inner realm, so-called, the outer senses. So that we have, for instance, inner sight, we have inner hearing, we have inner taste and touch, all that. That reality, that entire reality, including our ability to kind of tap into this non-local field, is something that I believe I have, with some rigor, scientifically demonstrated in terms of the analogy I have drawn between a Tesla coil and the basic human architecture. I won't describe that now because I don't have enough time, but people can, find out what I have said about that in my interview with Alfred Lambermont Weber, or they can scroll through numerous posts on Facebook to see how that kind of thinking is developing in my own mind. So that's my answer to that question.
Thank you, Tom. And Andrew, come on in.
Yeah, I do have a follow-up. I mean, you realize there's a lot of people that would beg to differ with your statement, you can't prove infinity. And let me give you a couple examples why people would beg to differ. The Mandelbrot set, the simple mathematics behind the Mandelbrot set, and the fact that the Mandelbrot set is a finite structure that looks like a beetle but yet goes into infinity if you zoom in on it is one thing. I mean, and not only that, number line. Look on a number line on a ruler, for example, between 1 inch and 2 inch. What's the distance between the number 1 and the number 2 on the ruler? Well, one could say, it goes into infinity because decimal points go into infinity, like the number pi, for example. It goes into infinity. Even though it's greater than 3 and less than 4, it's still infinite because decimal points go into infinity. And by the way, I did recently watch Nassim Harameyn's 2010 Cognos presentation. He claims in that presentation to have mathematically proved that we are all one infinite consciousness. So I'm sure you understand a lot of people would say you can't be serious when you say you can't prove that we are infinite. And one of the implications about this that's specific to this show on ET Disclosure, if we are infinite, then that means there has to be ETs out there somewhere because the laws of probability say that if we're infinite, then there must be ETs out there besides us, no questions asked. So do you have any comment to that?
Yes, and to my understanding, infinity can be proved by inference only. Infinity is a counterfactual. But by counterfactual, I mean that, if you try to count to infinity, you can see that the numbers never stop. You can have that experience of, so far, the numbers have not stopped. But to say that they will never stop cannot be demonstrated unless you actually keep counting forever. And if you're counting forever, there you are still counting. And the proof has yet to show itself because the counting will never end. So to my understanding of these matters, and I take a perspective on this from, let's say, Kurt Gödel, who was a fantastic mathematician who showed that any form of mathematical axiomization, which is to say any system of axioms, can only in essence prove what it assumes. Or in other words, it may be consistent, but it will never be complete. Complete in that formulation of what Gödel was saying refers precisely to this notion of proving, because what Gödel was talking about there was he was talking about being able to prove everything to completion using a mathematical axiomatic set. Gödel, for his part, proved that cannot be done. You are always left with incompletion. But this is not, for me, this whole matter goes into very deep rabbit holes, and, we could discuss this for hours and hours. So I'll just leave you with that.
Oh, wow. Thank you. One word comes to mind, what you're all talking about, limitlessness. We are limitless. We're never going to know everything, and the truths we know are going to always change to bigger. What you thought you knew was true is going to change in a week or a month or a year or 3 years. And we're in the energies of knowing, just knowing. You don't have to understand. Just know. Know with your heart. Quit understanding, quit boggling your mind, and just go with the flow and know. All right, thank you. Now we want to bring Steve in, and Peter, just to reply to what Tom has all said.
Who's first?
You guys got
first?
Steve, and we got like about a minute or two each. Just brief comment, you guys. Sorry, because we want to go to the second half of our show, which I'm really looking forward to.
Steve, you are on the air. Go ahead.
Well, look, my job as a political activist is not to, I spend much time debating more.
I can't hear you.
Yeah, you're a little muffled. Sound
muffled again. Let me get the mic in a better place. Infinite, finite, all provocative, but I have the luxury of just dealing with the here and now and the immediate realities that we're facing. I will take this time, though, to reiterate something. I've been at this 18 years. We initially put the idea that PRG put the idea of the citizen hearing out in 2001. The web page went up in 2002. The only reason the citizen hearing happened in 2013 is because Tom Clearwater put up the resources, and by that I mean a lot of resources to make it possible. And by that I mean make it possible in a way that it would succeed, not just be happen. He is the only one that did that. Many people could have.
Wow.
But he did. And so, in that sense, he has made history. I believe the hearing on disclosure will be viewed as an historical event of some great influence. Obviously, the congressional hearings and the ultimate disclosure announcement will transcend that event. But there is, I think, now an almost certain and indelible connection between the citizen hearing on disclosure and what comes forward. It's notable that Thomas is a Canadian and that no American would do this. That reflects the fact that the truth embargo is a vast propaganda program funded and conducted by the United States government with enormous vigor and sophistication. Really prevented an American from doing this, whereas a Canadian, which Canadians have lived under much less of an intense embargo and are a little more shielded from U.S. government shenanigans. So the money came from Canada. These are points that need to be reminded. I don't want to play it too hard. Tom is a really modest man, likes to kind of stay behind the scenes. But let me be clear, no Tom Clearwater, no citizen hearing on disclosure, period.
Thank you.
That's the point that really needs to be made. And I know that Tom is going to have a lot more to say about the world and his views and thinking in the post-disclosure world when I expect to be getting a lot more press.
Thank you, Steve. Tom, you're a history maker. Keep making that history, Tom. Shout out for Tom. Love you, brother. Thank you, Steve. Okay, let's go to Peter. A brief interjection of what you heard from Tom. Peter, and then we'll go to the second half.
I haven't got much to say except that I agree. When you've seen things that I've seen, that some of these lights in the sky are actually...
Okay, we're back. Nature of Reality and Diamonds Forever 3113 in the upgrade. Andrew, are you there?
Yes, I am. Finished my bathroom break, and I enjoyed the last of the music when I put my headphones on. It was wonderful.
Okay, well, let's go into the next part of the program. But before that, we just want to say, Andrew, this made the ones listening to Blog Talk Radio on the Internet. If we go overtime, you won't be able to hear it, but the ones on the call line on Andrew's side and the Diamond side, you will be able to hear it. It will be uploaded to YouTube. Both of us will upload that, and we'll give our information at the end of the show. So, we want to open it up to Steve, Tom, and Peter. Go ahead and open them up, Andrew.
Well, actually, should I mute myself and you while having the three of them on, or should I leave either you or me on the air as I do this?
Well, we'll start it out with all of us, and then you can mute yourself, and you can leave me unmuted. I'll mute on my side. How's that?
All right, that's fine. Okay, let's do this. Steve, Tom, Peter, you are all on the air simultaneously. Debate all you want.
No, you don't have to debate.
Whatever.
Surprise, guys. It's a party time. So, Steve, Peter, Tom, start this party off. Go with your hearts.
Let me start by saying that
you guys talk amongst each other, okay? We want you to talk amongst each other.
I want to mention that there's a tour coming up in Canada called the Modern Knowledge Tour, which is going to involve 11 cities. And I know Tom is going to be involved in that. So I invite people who would like to meet him and hear him. They could participate in this Modern Knowledge Tour. They can find that on the internet quite easily. I will be participating, I believe, in 4 of these lectures on the eastern part of Canada. This is coming up next August. Just to give you a sense of some of the things that are happening, as well as many, many conferences and so forth. So I'll just use that opportunity to mention that. And who knows, I might make it out to one of the Western Canada tours and catch up with Tom at some point.
Thank you. So I want you guys to talk amongst each other. Bring out everything you ever wanted to talk about. Come on and talk with each other and expand us.
Well, let me just talk a little bit more broadly about disclosure and what it kind of means and implies from what I can see for life on this planet and whatnot. It seems to me that disclosure is essentially human beings as a race waking up from what they have experienced as a very long disconnection. Now, again, that disconnection was that niggling feeling that I chased all my life. And in my view of it, it was kind of in the natural order of things and was necessary. For there were many things I think we as a race needed to experience and resolve, or let's put it this way, to manifest or incorporate.
Tom? Let me just interject you. All three of you guys are unmuted, so everybody's got to, when you guys are unmuted, just be quiet, everybody, because we can hear the noise. Somebody, go ahead, Tom, just be aware of that. Thanks.
Right. So I think, during this period of disconnection, which, could be called quarantine, there's many words that you can use to describe it, there were many things that we had to do, developments that we had to undertake. And so for me, disclosure is essentially the universe at this moment in time now gently waking us from the sleep of that disconnection and inviting us to emerge into a much larger reality than we have experienced to date. And, one could perhaps use the analogy of an egg to say, well, let's say the egg of a bird, for the embryo that grows to exist inside that egg, the egg is a necessary and helpful protective layer that separates the embryo from what is outside the egg, protecting, its very delicate, very vulnerable development to allow what needs to happen for that embryo to become what it has to be within the confines of that tiny little enclosed world. So this is the kind of Truman Show bubble that we exist in on this planet and have existed in. And what I want to emphasize is that there is a very positive and even caring aspect to that. And yet there comes a time to refer back to this little embryo growing inside this protective shell, this protected Truman Show bubble, where that protection has served its purpose and where the small little being inside has to free itself from the shell that separates it from the rest of the universe to allow it to take wing in the world beyond that protection. So note, it is the chick's responsibility to perform that act. And what's at stake in freeing oneself from this closed system bubble that we have existed in to do whatever we have needed to do within that bubble, what's at stake is life itself, because if you don't get out, let's say per this analogy I'm drawing, the little being inside that protective shell will die, and that protection will become the death of that being. So disclosure for me is very important in regards to the entire development that we have undertaken as a single race. We are a single race down here. There's not an us versus them down here. Yes, it's polarized, but that polarity, in my opinion, is a necessary part of what we have been doing within this closed little bubble that we have called quarantine, but in any event which we have lived as this smaller life on this planet. So I think disclosure is all of that and more. And again, per comments I've said previously, it is absolutely inevitable, in my opinion. So I'll set that out on the floor to see if anyone has a comment.
Yeah, can you hear me?
Yes.
Hello? Yep.
I hear you.
That's a very, very important point. Just a couple of things that I would like to add, and that is, look, we're going through basically a collective evolution stage at the moment with humanity, but again, we're going outside ourselves for answers on a lot of levels, not you with what you just said, but as a race. Now, for example, at the moment, you don't have to tell people in India or South America or the Japanese, so many races and cultures that are not part of the Western civilization except for South America, if you want to put it in terms of geographically, that we're not alone. Everyone is waiting on America. Australia's waiting on America. Canada's waiting on America. The UK is waiting on America, and soon America's going to lose the power and grips themselves with what's going on if they don't get with the program. What's going on with this change and leap in conscious evolution is you either get with the program or you're going to be stuck in your old paradigm, and this is where we in ourselves need to start taking the power back. Now, with what Steve's been doing, and Tom, this is great because it's getting from the top up, bringing it down with a change. It's manifesting change. Then you've got others that are doing from the ground up, and we're meeting halfway here. But this is where we need to take our power back, have some self-responsibility. But again, you look around the world, so many countries do not need to be told that there is something going on. So many people in America alone, with the amount of UFO sightings and interactions of anomalous phenomena in America alone, the masses don't need to be told something's going on. It's the average Joe going to work 5 days a week that watches sports on the weekend and doesn't care that because they're programmed, they need to be told that there is something else out there. Now, in terms of when disclosure does happen, for a fact I can count on that the government is not going to tell us everything. And that's understandable if we look in terms of national security. But I would not believe probably 99% of what crap they spew out of their mouth, except for the 1% of them saying we're not alone, just for the fact of how they've covered up so many things. And I think you've got to keep in your mind here that some of these beings, extraterrestrials, otherworldly beings, interdimensionals, whatever you want to call it, they are part of the orchestrators of the cover-up also on another level, which brings me to what's going on a self-serving mode behind the scenes. There is other entities. You could go into some of the theories like David Icke and whatever. I would say things are a lot deeper and 10 times more hardcore to even try and fathom than what even he said from what I've experienced. And this is where you've got to look at the two-part here. The people have got to take some self-responsibility. The government have got to take some self-responsibility. And I think once disclosure happens, there is going to be some reforming in the government on a hardcore level, worldwide, like never seen before. And there is going to be a new world order, whether it's in a self-serving manner or a new world in a serving or self-serving manner. There has to be a new world order. And it doesn't matter if people see it in whatever way they want. For us to become one and to evolve and become part of the collective on a universal level and have contact as a Earth, as a civilized, a human race, we have to become one. And there will be a new world order no matter what. And I hope it's in a way where people can regulate and monitor what's going on, rather than apparently that's the way we do it now, but it doesn't matter which friggin' party you vote for, because either way, whoever's going to want to get in gets in. It's just a fact that we've seen that here in Australia with the way the Labor and Liberal Party have played out, and even the Prime Minister's got kicked out of power for no friggin' reason, just because it doesn't do what the other parties wanted, that are behind the scenes, that are actually funding both sides when we come down to it, and they're in play with their interests. So there's so many different things we have to look at, but I think self-responsibility is where it comes back to, and the more of us that do it, the more easier it's going to be for those that can't fathom something being outside their paradigm actually being real.
Yes, let me contribute. The world is a vastly complex place, and it isn't getting any less complex. It's overwhelming. The situation regarding the extraterrestrial presence, of course, is just one more significant component of this complex world we live in. My job is to try to give people a sense of what is happening and not further overwhelm them. So let me put it in a very basic context that I think just about anyone can get. One, and this is an assessment. I cannot prove all of these points, but it is an assessment based upon years of considering the issue. Extraterrestrials, non-human intelligence, has been engaging, visiting the planet Earth for as far back in history as you might want to go. This engagement is probably very complex on many levels, involving many entities, some of which are gone forever. Two, the situation has arrived where the nature of this engagement has to make a very significant state change. Something very important is going on, which is going to alter forever this contact. I believe the trigger for this change was, in fact, I guess symbolically, the dropping of the atomic bomb on Hiroshima and Nagasaki, but mostly the development of atomic physics, which starts in early 1900s, but culminates with those bombs in 1945. 16 months later, the engagement by these extraterrestrials expanded and became far more visible. Over the last 68 years, while we have been dealing with all of the problems and bad behavior that is typical to the human condition, extraterrestrials have been very busy, much more visible, and have been, to some degree, driving a process that we call, or I call, self-disclosure. Self-disclosure ultimately leads to a formal announcement of the extraterrestrial presence. And that is important because a formal announcement of the extraterrestrial presence opens the way for open contact in the modern era. And that's where people sometimes don't understand this key aspect. It's one thing for extraterrestrials to engage the Egyptians, the Sumerians, or proto-humans, or regular Homo sapiens 40,000 years ago. Is another for them to openly engage a fully advanced, connected civilization that has high technology, including the ability to travel within the solar system. Which is to say that by the 20th century, certainly by the mid-20th century, we now had a civilization on the planet that was actually capable of being in relationship with extraterrestrial civilizations. Much like a country and the planet, our planet, being sufficiently advanced to be able to be in relationship with other advanced nations and so forth.
Beautiful.
That is a huge milestone. It took 4 billion years of life evolution on this planet to get to that point, and it just so happens that milestone comes while everyone in this program, as I can tell, are alive. So we get to be part of it. open contact probably leads to a political engagement or alliance of some kind. Whether we'll be a full partner in some alliance or whether we'll be an apprentice, I do not know. I also know that the entities that are dealing with us are much closer to us in terms of technological advancement than is commonly thought, and there's also evidence there's genetic connection. So we're not just being visited by anybody. These entities are here because of very important relationships. It's kind of like we're going to be sitting at the lunch table in the lunchroom with those that are sort of our same caste, our same group, which is not surprising. There are other lunch tables in the galaxy, I assure you, that we're not going to be able to sit at because they haven't the slightest interest in us. But these entities do. Open contact leads to potentially shared technology. Also, disclosure leads to probably the de-sequestration of alien technology, ET technologies developed by our own governments. These texts could be transformative in the 20th century. This is, to me, the fundamental assessment is what is going on. I try to stay within that assessment. It's pretty nuts and bolts, not that complicated, but more than enough to justify the full attention of the public, the press, the media, and the educational institutions.
Thank you, Steve. And I'll just interject here. Beautifully said. It's relationship. We're doing that today. So you each have 40 seconds to say your last words. Don't say goodbye to us. Just say hi. And I love to talk with all three of you and Andrew, too. Again, maybe we can do this again in another format. But 30 seconds to say your goodbyes, whatever you want to say, and then Andrew will have like 6 minutes for our stuff, and then I'll play music to end it. So, Tom, go ahead, and then Peter and Steve.
Before Tom goes, just want to let you know I have 8 minutes left on the live feed, and then, the live feed will go off, just so all the listeners know. But
yeah, and you can dial the Diamonds line to hear the rest of the show at 209-255-1000, PIN number 883267#, and that's live now, 209-255-1000, PIN 883267#. Go ahead, Tom.
Well, I just want to say thank you to you and Andrew for hosting this event. It was a lot of fun, and it's always in good measure, I think, to put this kind of information out more and more as time goes on. And thank you to Peter and Stephen for being here. And just want to say we live in a privileged time frame right now, and it's very interesting times in the future coming down the pipeline so far as I can see. And wish everybody the best in these transitions. There'll be some rocky spaces, I'm sure. There'll be a lot of changes and some uncomfortable feelings, I'm sure, for a lot of people. But the horizons are very bright, and we are as if moving out of a deep plunge, and we're going to break that surface, and it'll be sunshine from that time on.
Thank you, Tom Clearwater. I'm going to call you the history maker. Thank you, history maker. Love you, brother. We'll talk soon. Peter?
Hello. I just want to say thank you to Andrew and you, Elizabeth, for having me on. It's been a pleasure being on with Steve and Tom. I want them to keep up the great, fantastic work that they've been doing. We're all playing a part in what's going on, even those that aren't that don't believe in what's going on or know what's going on. They're part of this too, so everyone's playing some part in what's going on. But a special thanks to both Steve and Tom. Like Tom said, but these are exciting times. We're very lucky to be here at this time with what's going on. We're going to see big leaps and changes, and we're seeing these continuously daily. And I just want to thank the listeners for being interested in researching and being into this, because what's the use of doing shows like this if there isn't people listening? So it just shows that there are people into this, wanting to learn, whether it's skeptics or not. At least they're interested and wanting to open their mind and listen to different points of view. And I think this has been a great balanced round table. And again, just thank you to you all.
And Peter, I just want to honor you for what you do. I know you do shows like this. It takes a lot of work and your service to others. And I want to thank you for being brave in meshing with our star brothers and sisters and taking that leap of faith so you can be a pioneer into easing everybody's heart that it's okay, you don't have to fear. Thank you. I honor you, brother.
Thank you.
Okay, Mr. Steve and Bassett.
Well, so it's I think the first time I've been on the same show with Tom. Perhaps not, but again, it's a pleasure to do any of these shows. I've done over 1,200 interviews because that's my job, and because I benefit from the internet reality and alternative media that is generated. Not only do we able to speak at great length, but of course these shows are all archived. This is one of the reasons why the disclosure advocacy movement is working. Also, the internet provides the ability to connect with people and find funding and support, which would have been very difficult prior to 1995. So we're all part of a growing global community, part of what Thierry Deschardin so-called the neurosphere. We now have a group mind. We now have the power to stop the dysfunctions of the ruling class and create a planet that serves the commons and not the elite. We're on the verge of this. It's still a long way to go. It's not going to be easy, but I think we prevail in the long run, and I think soon we will be dealing with extraterrestrials who I suspect may be sympathetic with the common needs of the human race.
Thank you, Steve. Thank you for taking your time out, and I honor all the work you've been doing all these years. And I give you all three a big group hug and a kiss from me, Diamond, to your cheek. Anyway, love you guys, and thank you for coming. We'll talk again soon, I know. We'll meet up somehow, some way. Andrew, how many minutes do we have on the live feed? Let's see what we can do with that.
3 minutes and 10 seconds.
Okay, we're going to go over a little bit so you guys can listen to it on YouTube. If you're on the phone, on the Diamonds or Andrew's blog talk, give him that number really quick, Andrew.
For my show?
Yeah.
Yeah, the number is 646-478-4747. And by the way, either Steve or Tom just dropped off, and they both dropped off now. I guess they aren't able to listen to music, but that's okay.
Andrew Fisher, my brother, Nature of Reality Radio, Blog Talk Radio. I want you to, from your heart, to give your mission, your desire, why you started your blog talk. And by the way, me and Andrew met up in Florida, Sarasota, the Keys, right? Oh, beautiful beach. Oh, my God. I wanted to stay there forever. It was awesome with Andrew Bartzitz and Lisa and Magdalene Eisenhower, Laura, and all of us now are doing radio or media, whatever. Anyway, Andrew, take it away. Tell them all about you and your links and everything.
Yeah, I host Nature of Reality Radio normally every Wednesday from 6 to 8 p.m. Eastern Standard Time, although I am flexible if guests need to accommodate for time zone. The purpose of my show is to expose the true and false nature of reality for what it is and what it isn't. Always do a 10-minute news segment at the beginning of my shows. Seems like a lot of people don't want to listen to that. I guess it's because my source for the news is Alex Jones and his friends at InfoWars, and there's a lot of people out there who find Alex Jones to be utterly appalling, but I find his fear-mongering, as disturbing as it may be to listen to be quite important for society for the sake of waking people up, so I use him as the news source for the first 5 to 10 minutes of my show. But other than that, I've had lots of fascinating guests on my show from all sorts of walks of life. And, I guess how did I get started with the show? Greg Prescott of In5D inspired me, said you should have your own show because, you can give a lot of information. You seem to have a very good selective memory and can remember a lot of important things. You'd be the perfect host for a show. And, it was actually at the N5D Return to Atlantis conference that you mentioned when all of a sudden, I don't know the exact time, but it was some point during that conference when I officially decided that I would host this show. So that conference was significant in in so many ways, and it changed a lot of things in regards to how the world works. There's no question, because Sarasota, Florida, it is the place where the consciousness of Mother Earth was seated, and that quartz crystal sand on the beach made it the perfect place to hold a conference. So that's basically the gist of my show. Again, 6 to 8 p.m. Eastern Standard Time. I'm scheduled to have a psychic named Farusha. Don't know her real name, but that's her alias. I'm not sure how to pronounce it. Farusha, something to that effect, is supposed to be my guest next Wednesday. And I actually don't ever have the same guest on my show twice, unless they want to come on to have a special, because I'm on a mission to get as many different people on the show as possible before giving any one specific guest double dips. And a lot of the trolls like to pick on me for that on YouTube, always saying, what a douche, won't have the same guest on twice. Well, I don't care if the trolls attack me. That just gives me more discrediting ammunition. Well, gives them more discrediting ammunition to fight me with, which will, as far as I'm concerned, bring them out into the open more and will eventually backfire. So, well, I've babbled long enough about my show. Hope that inspires the people to listen to it. Elizabeth, I guess you might as well take it away. Oh, and it's only 4 o'clock. Looks like I'll have time for some sun gazing before the sun sets.
And Andrew, people can find your show. They could go to blogtalkradio.com, and in the search bar put Nature of Reality Radio, right? Nature of Reality.
And I do have a Facebook page for it, although I have been censored by the Facebook Nazis again, so I can't post there at the moment.
I'm sorry about that. And Andrew Fisher, Fisher.
Yeah, there's no C.
Right, and what's your picture on Facebook?
It's one of Teal Scott's empowerment logo. Teal Scott's empowerment logo.
It's a vibration painting. It's very colorful, like a stained glass window.
Yeah, so if you see Teal Scott's empowerment logo, that's my page.
Yeah, and I was teasing Andrew when we were talking on the phone before the show about, his rule that he only has only one guest, the same guest, only one time on his show. I said, well, Andrew, you're going to be the bouquet of flowers as we go viral, because your rule is only have one guest on a time. Well, when the star people start coming on the media and the phone and the blog talk, he's going to have a whole bouquet of ETs, different ones. So I think that rule is going to serve you right, Andrew. Thank you for persevering with that. Huh?
Thank you very much. Well said.
And I just want to say I'm Elizabeth Diamond, and I do have a blog spot, and we do have a show every Saturday. I started this out with this. I didn't want to. People kept saying to, but I did. But I finally did, because I was tired of hearing what we're in now, and we needed to go to the other side. So my mission is that we are diamonds. If you study diamonds, we are diamonds. And my mission is, I just forgot, going beyond awakening and learning who we really are. Learning who we really are and going beyond that. So that's what you'll encompass. That's what you'll upgrade in as you come to the show and take it out to the world. So the show is live on Saturdays, 2 p.m. Eastern. I do it on a phone conference line, because there's a lot of people without the Internet. I want to accommodate that, and I come from investment financial world. I want to accommodate them to help them learn the true currency. And so it is on the phone, and you can listen to the recordings on the phone and live show on the phone. Also, I have a YouTube channel, Elizabeth Diamond YouTube channel. Look for the one Diamond. We upload all the shows there. And on the blog, I post most every day, every other day, of learning who you really are, and some world news and really good stuff. And that is Diamonds with an S Forever 31.blogspot.com. Diamonds with an S Forever 31.blogspot.com. I also put the call links right after the call on that blog, too. You can find that. International following, and on the call line, international people can call in. People all around the world can call on the conference line. All right, and I want you to join me. You could help me out by a personal invitation I have for you for a brand new social network, and that is tsu.co social network, by invitation only. You hit on the link that I have, and then you can join. It's like Facebook, but you can be your true creative self there. So that's www.tsu.co tsu.co/diamond31/2717073. It's posted on the YouTube shows, and you can email me if you want that at diamondswithanS4ever31 yahoo.com. By the way, Diamonds has upgraded. I don't have it written because people can't find it, but it's Diamonds Forever 3-1, the Lion, rawr, taking dominion, and 13, Christ consciousness, our supernatural natural selves. You can also find me on Facebook, Elizabeth Mulligan, Irish, Mulligan. Look for the one diamond picture, and then you can find me on tsu.co, same name. What else do I want to say? Andrew Fisher's also at tsu.co. Look for him. Be sure to check out the Diamonds blog spot and sign the petition that Steve Bissett has that he talked about it, and the Twitter storm, and that's on the blog spot. Let's see. Let me just read what I have then. So, sign the petition. Live to Washington D.C. Congress. So we're going to bring disclosure live to Washington D.C. Congress and Senate hearings. Soda, who beautifully does the Diamonds YouTubes, uploads them, and produces them. Love you, Joe. Keep up the good work. And Elizabeth Diamond signing off and giving you love, peace, joy, turning to bliss to you. Love you,
and
everybody.
This is Andrew Fisher signing off. Namaste. Enjoy the rest of your trek throughout infinite consciousness, everyone. Namaste.
Namaste.